Good evening. It's my privilege and pleasure to introduce the first of our distinguished guest speakers. He bears a famous name and needs very little in the way of introduction. Alfred Nobel, the Swedish chemist and industrialist, of course, was the man who invented dynamite and left his fortune to be used for the Nobel Prize. He himself was a bachelor, but Mr. Claes Nobel is his grandnephew. He was inspired by the work of his distinguished forebear and has himself had the inspiration to found an organization which is called United Earth, of which he is still the chairman. And this organization has itself instituted a prize in the ecological sphere, which is not one of the Nobel Prizes. There's no prize for ecology. And this prize he calls Earth Ethics. He met Shri Mataji last year in India when he was the chairman of the World Philosophers Conference. So without any more ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Claes Nobel to come onto the stage, please.
Well, indeed, life is full of surprises. After all, we are meeting here inspired by the message and work by Holy Mother Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi, and she is not here in body, but she's here in spirit. Also the wonderful letter that we recently heard from the Ayatollah Rouhani, which speaks very highly about the work and the mission of the Holy Mother, where he indicates the importance of women in the world, is neither here. And frankly speaking, only 36 hours ago, I did not know that I would be here tonight at the Royal Albert Hall, addressing this audience. Still, I say, dear Holy Mother, and I also recognize her husband, Sir C.P. Srivastava, in the audience. And I say, most importantly, dear friends, fellow seekers of truth, are you out there? Because with all this light, I can only see about 20 people in front of me. So say yes if you are here, then I know. Ah. Now I can see you and I can hear you as well as you can see and hear me. With that said, I want to say, I have a vision. I have a vision for the world that is better, safer, and saner than the one that we presently are experiencing. It is a world where people live in harmony and peace with themselves and in harmony and peace with nature. Now those words are vast, it's a bold vision. Do I have a practical way of going from vision to reality? Yes, I will share that with you. And I will share it and indicate the tone of the meeting by 10 small words. And they indicate how this global world transformation shall be undertaken. And they are right thoughts, right words, right deeds, right here and right now. The key word is, of course, right. This world is fighting about what is right. What is right to you might be wrong to me, or vice versa. It's a gray area. So we need a reference point, so we can distinguish between right and wrong, and between truth and lie. Tonight, Shree Mataji will show us what is right. Tonight, Shri Mataji will empower us to become the masters of our own destiny. And tonight, we will be guided by the knowledge of self-realization. We will do so in the light of truth. And we shall all know absolute truth and absolute peace. Now, 100 years ago, Alfred Nobel established the Nobel Prizes. These prizes represent excellence. We have prizes in chemistry, physics, medicine, literature, and peace. Of those prizes, I hold the Peace Prize to be the finest. And I want to tell you that Alfred Nobel listened to a woman. He listened to his secretary, Bertha von Suttner, in Paris 100 years ago, when she said, "Dr. Nobel, you should use your vast fortune for betterment of the world." Tonight, we are listening to another woman. We are listening to the message of Shri Mataji. However, I'm very much inspired, first by my uncle, and later on you will hear by Shri Mataji. Alfred Nobel talked much about peace. He was frightened that his awesome explosive dynamite, which cleared up land for harbors and tunnels, could also be used for warfare. Today, in the arsenal of military systems, it's like a small firecracker. But at that time, dynamite was the most awesome destructive material. Now, Alfred Nobel thought basically about peace as absence of war. But I assure you that peace is much more than absence of war. And I see that peace exists in 4 specific areas. The first area is the peace that an individual has in him or herself. How do we treat our mind, our emotions, and our feelings? How do we treat our body? Are we slaves to other masters, or are we our own master? Until we have the inner peace in ourselves, we can never have an outer peace in the world. And the safest and best way of finding world peace is to have mass movements that includes all religions and philosophies, all enterprises, whether they are of political or scientific nature, to realize what inner peace is. And that's what we are talking about tonight. Self-realization. What does self-realization mean? Well, it means that we are realizing something, but what is the self? Ladies and gentlemen, the self in us is the divine cosmic powers that exist in each and every individual, but which is dormant in most people around the world. The spiritual leaders from ancient laws, they knew about this, and they spoke about this. But this secret of secret has been suppressed deliberately until Shri Mataji, with great courage and great wisdom, being an old soul, who decided by herself to come back to the earth at this critical time in our history in order to share her knowledge and wisdom, which is the Sahaja Yoga, which is instant self-realization, which is to activate the dormant principle that we all have, the Kundalini, and have the Kundalini to raise up, and thus we become what it says in the Bible: you are created in my image. That was the first category, first sphere of peace, the one we have in ourselves. The next one is the peace that we have among each other, in the family, in our community, in our nation, that we have peace with other ethnic groups and with other religions, that we really become true, what I call active listeners, and as active listeners are able to put ourselves in the place, in the shoes of the other party. Only then, when we have the outlook from their perspective, shall we understand what they're trying to say. We are always talking. My dear wife, who's not here tonight, she said, "Claes, you talk too much. You don't listen." I have started to practice what she calls active listening. The third sphere is the sphere that pulled me in originally. After all, I am a European Swedish businessman. Why am I up here speaking the language of spirituality and saying that that is where the hope of the future exists? I am doing so because I have a deep and profound reverence for nature. As the Nobel Peace Laureate Dr. Albert Schweitzer said, after he had worked and worked trying to distill a phrase that contained everything that he knew, everything he wanted to say through his philosophy, Dr. Albert Schweitzer coined the phrase, reverence for life. Nature is nothing but a plethora of examples of life in its multifaceted version. And I tell you, dear fellow seekers of truth, we humanity today, in our ignorance, in our greed, and in our lust for power, we are in the process of destroying the very thing that makes this planet unique, and that is life on Earth. And so far, we do not know of another planet in the universe that harbors this miracle. Earth is like a blue jewel in space. And there's only one Earth. And this Earth is fragile. And we must take care of her and respect her. Earth is also called nature. We cannot break the laws of nature. We must live by the laws of nature. If we break them, Mother Earth will break us. And we are only one species of, we do not know how many species we have, 5, 10, 15 millions. But this we know. And this has been proven by the world's foremost scientists in Harvard University, United States, Dr. Edward O. Wilson. We are today bringing to extinction 250 species per day. That is as if we are deliberately and willfully pulling out thread after thread after thread of what consists the fabric of life. And Mother Nature will not let us continue doing that without correcting us as naughty children. The fourth sphere of peace is the peace that we shall know between ourselves and God. Any religion or any group who raises their arms and destroys his enemy in the name of God is not following what God has asked us to do. The world should not know of violence. And the world should not know of war. I call, as we earlier heard, these four spheres of peace, earth ethics. And tonight we will hear more from the Holy Mother, how we shall have a reference point, how we can distinguish if we have a charlatan and a fraud in front of us, or if it's a genuine, honest person. And you, dear audience, you have come here tonight from many different walks of life. And like you, I have also been seeking for the truth. I am beginning to discern truth rather clearly. And let me tell you this, that I look upon life on earth as a kind of a school where we are learning perfection and purification. Now, on earth everything is interdependent, interactive, and interrelated. And on earth, as well as in heaven, I guess, every action has a reaction. Every effect has a cause. Every cause has an effect. And the Holy Mother, as I said, she is a highly evolved soul. She has learned from many, many lives what it is all about. And these, what it is all about, laws, the unseen laws, the spiritual laws, they are always here, and they work as infallible as the law of gravity works. It always works, although it's an unseen law. It is for us to learn and perceive that law. I am very comfortable with the teachings of Shri Mataji, and I'm very comfortable with the Holy Mother herself. I say so because in the Bible there's one saying among several good ones: you shall know the tree by its fruit. And lately I have met young men and women in different parts of the world, and certainly from many different parts of the world, and they are all shining, beautiful human individuals that radiate inner peace and balance. They are unique. You who follow and you who are in the process of following will be, I think, those individuals who shall call themselves ambassadors for the earth. And after tonight's session is over, I'm sure that you shall see clearly how you shall distinguish between truth and lie. And you shall realize that blind faith is of no value, and that fanaticism and to take up violence as a last argument is of no value. Eventually, those things will bring you unhappiness, they will bring you conflict and potentially war. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that we hold the future in our hands. I know that the future is in your hands. I know it's in my hands. And I also know that the future of the planet exists in the heart of the individuals. Now I will close my remarks tonight by a fable from India. I heard it when I attended the Rio Conference 92. That was the 20th anniversary of the Stockholm Conference that for the first time put on the environment on the world agenda. In Stockholm 72 we had only two heads of state, the Prime Minister from India and the King of Sweden. In Rio 20 years later we had 110 heads of states. A marvelous declarations was drafted, Agenda 21. Just last week in New York there were 70 heads of state that continued with Rio +5. But as I told Sir CP when he asked me about how is the outcome of this conference, I said, well, we are talking about sustainable future, but it seems to me that in UN there is much of a sustainable dialogue ongoing Tonight we shall take the action. Well, I asked the holy man from India, the white-robed Acharya, and I said, is there hope for the future? And he said, Mr. Nobel, I will answer your question as follows. And this is what he said. When the dear Lord had created the earth, he was very, very happy, very, very, very pleased. It was his finest creation in the earth, in the universe, and he decided to celebrate, to have a party. And God invited in all the angels and all the devils. When they were there, he toasted them and wished them welcome as a good host and said, there is only one rule that you must strictly obey while you're here having a good time. And by the way, the best food and the best wine was served, ambrosia and nectar. And he said, there's one rule, and that is that while you're here celebrating my creation, you may never bend your elbows. The devils cried out and said, we don't want any part of such a party. How can we enjoy it? Not bending our elbows. So they left. Then the party started. The angels were having a jolly good time, and the dear God was very, very happy. Now, how could they eat and drink without bending their elbows? Well, I sense that you can see what the morale of the fable is. The angels were feeding each other. They were sharing and they were caring. And that is what we shall do in the future together. Thank you very much.
So the question for us then is, how do we enter that state? How do we enter the state where we can experience inner peace, where we can know ourselves as one with the infinite being, where we can exist in peaceful and harmonious relations with each other? And as Mr. Nobel has so graciously said, the way that he, and certainly we who practice Sahaja Yoga, have discovered of entering that privileged realm where these incredible ideals are real and realizable is the way which is offered by Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi. And before we look at her videoed talk in the Albert Hall here, I'll explain just a little bit about the subtle system which we have referred to. We are hoping, of course, that you will want to practice Sahaja Yoga yourselves, because one of the questions in your mind must be, why have we taken the trouble and gone to the expense of putting on this program this evening? It's very important for me to say that Shri Mataji receives no money from us. We don't pay her any money for Sahaja Yoga. On the contrary, she herself and Sir C.P. Srivastava have spent a considerable amount of their own money on bringing Sahaja Yoga to the world. And we've put on this program through donations that we have made ourselves because we want to do it. And you may ask us, why do we do it? And somebody once said it's a bit like this, that we all live in the same house, and the house has got lots of closed windows and the curtains are drawn, and it's pretty dark in there and we don't know what's happening a lot of the time. We crash into each other and we have quite a difficult time. But one or two people have discovered how to open the windows and the curtains, and when you do that, the light flows into the house. And the more windows and curtains that are open, then the better the house is for all of us. And that is the logic of our wanting to offer you what we have discovered about Sahaja Yoga. It's in order to open more windows so that there would be and shall be more light in the world, so that we can all enjoy it. So this is, and I think you can see it up above where it's clearer, an image of the subtle system as has emerged from thousands of years of tradition in India of looking into the subtle system. It is, if you like, the geography of our inner being. I should stand so that you can see both the the images here. So this is the subtle body according to the researches over thousands of years of dedicated men and women who have studied yoga in India and of course in other countries, in other traditions. There's a great tradition of mysticism, of yoga if you like, in Islam, the Sufi tradition, and of course in the Christian tradition also. There is the principle that man can unite with God, enter the kingdom of heaven here and now in this life. And it is through the enlightening of this subtle system that we attain the first stage of our self-realization. And tonight we can begin that process. So, just to explain what the images are, at the base of the spine here in the triangular bone is shown as a 3.5 coils is the energy which Mr. Nobel referred to, the Kundalini energy. Kundalini means coiled feminine energy. It's a residual power. It is said to be the reflection within us of the divine mother power. God is our father, God is our mother, according to ancient tradition, and that, the divine mother, is the active, the creative power. It's she who moves. God the Father is the one who observes, who watches, who enjoys, and she is the one who makes the creation, who makes the heavens and the earth, and she is called the primordial energy of God, the Adi Shakti in Sanskrit. The Adi Shakti also is reflected in us there in the triangular bone, in the sacrum, which is at the base of the spine in all human beings. It is, as Shri Mataji has said, the equivalent of the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit in the Christian tradition, which is in all human beings and which reflects that divine ground of being from which all things come. Now, normally, in our normal everyday state, that energy is quiescent. We don't know that it exists. It looks after us. It's the energy which builds our bodies, which sustains us, and which directs us to seek higher things, higher truths, our higher self. But we're not aware of that energy directly. Now, it has been known for thousands of years in India that in the presence of a realized soul, in the presence of a great master of yoga, this energy will rise. And that's why it's been called the serpent power. Because remember, in India, the serpent is seen as a very positive image of divine energy, just as in China, the dragon has that positive image. And the energy in the presence of the realized soul rises through this central channel, which is normally blocked at this point, is not open. And in the presence of a realized soul, the energy rises until it passes through the top of the head. And you can actually feel that happening, and I'm sure many of us will feel that. And it's actually a very pleasant sensation, that we feel there is a movement and there is an energy which rises in the presence of Shri Mataji. And she says, of course, this is a completely natural and normal event in our lives. In fact, it's the greatest event. It is like a second birth. It's again coming into the world. She says that it is just like a bird which is born twice, the Dvijaha, which is the highest spiritual being, is the one who is twice born, who is born as a normal human being, and at this moment, when the energy rises and comes out of the top of the head, enters a new sphere of experience. It's difficult, and we know it's difficult because poets and philosophers have tried for thousands of years. It's difficult to describe this, to say exactly what it is. And Shri Mataji says we can't really, or it would be a waste of time, to try to describe to you what is in a dark room. The room is dark, there's no light, and we say if you go in and turn to the left, you will feel something and you will see something, and there is a mountain, and to try to describe it. What we must do is to see it for ourselves. And she says it is like switching a light on. When we feel the energy of the Kundalini rising and it comes to the highest point, then it is like a light, and our individual awareness is brought into contact with the infinite being and with the highest self. I said earlier, Sahaja means spontaneous, inborn, born with us, and yoga, of course, means union. It also means discipline, as I explained. Sahaja Yoga is spontaneous union of our awareness with the all-pervading power, with the highest self. I won't spend a lot of time talking about this instrument. We're hoping that you will come to the follow-up program, which is to be next Wednesday in the Kensington Town Hall, and the address and the time is in the booklet, which we have put there for you to take away. There's another follow-up program earlier in West London, in Hounslow, if you can't make that Wednesday next week. We hope also you'll be sufficiently interested to come to our courses, which of course are free, to learn all the complexities of the subtle system and to see how you can experience the qualities of the centers and discover a new area of power in yourself so that you become master of your own life. Very quickly, there are 3 channels within us according to the ancient yoga teaching. The channel on the left side, which is blue here, is the channel of our emotions, of our feelings, and it's the channel through which we are linked with the past. It's also the channel of desire. And on the right side is the channel of action. It's on this side that our thoughts arise, so that we think and act through the right side. We become conscious. And it's the channel which is connected with the future, where we plan and think and get involved in the world. And the central channel is the one which normally we are not aware of and we don't use. In our normal lives, we are in a constant closed circle, moving from desire on the left side to action on the right side, which leaves a memory, a residue on the left side, which promotes new desire, and so it goes on. We're caught in a vicious circle. The way out of that vicious circle is to enter into the central channel, which is the channel of our growth, of our evolution, of our spiritual ascent. And it is the channel of harmony. It's the channel where we experience eternity in the present moment. And it's said of the yogis that they live constantly in eternity because they're in the present moment. They're aware of the past, they're aware of the future, but they live in the present moment, which is quite a hard task unless this channel is opened. Very briefly about the centers, there are 7 subtle centers, main centers. There are many more, but we talk of the main centers now. Here at the base of the spine is the Muladhara chakra in Sanskrit, is the support of the whole subtle system, and the quality of that chakra is innocence. It's our child nature. You can say this is where the eternal child within us is located, and through this yoga, Shri Mataji has said, innocence is never destroyed. We may think it is, but through yoga we come back into our innocence. We become reconnected with the child nature within ourselves. We can become, as a child, that we experience the world with wonder and delight. And there is no greater power than innocence, as we know. And that is the quality of that chakra. The next chakra in creation is this one. It's called the Nabhi, or the Manipura chakra. And it is connected with our seeking first for food and for shelter in the course of our evolution, but later at a higher level the seeking of higher truths. And when this chakra, this center, is enlightened and it begins to clear through our practice of yoga, we can enjoy the positive qualities of that center, which are contentment, satisfaction, feeling of oneness with ourselves, strength within ourselves, feelings of generosity and kindness. And these develop spontaneously. The next chakra in creation is this one here, the yellow one, which is called the Swadhisthana chakra, and that has to do with the beginnings of our consciousness of the highest truths. It's called the center of pure knowledge, and our knowledge of the highest reality begins here early on in our evolution. Each of these chakras represents a stage in the development of consciousness through time. This is also the center of our creativity, and it's common experience of those practicing Sahaja Yoga that we become more creative, that we enjoy our creativity, that we discover the means of becoming satisfied. Here in this green circle, this is called the Bhavasagara in Sanskrit, is the ocean of becoming, the ocean of being. And this is the reflection in us of the whole cosmos, of the world around us. And it is why, in our everyday experience, if we enter a situation which is worrying, we have butterflies in the stomach. It's in this area. It reflects our daily experience. And it is said that the great masters, the great teachers in human history have come into this area of our subtle being in order to give us dharma, in order to give us knowledge of the law, of morality. And it's an extraordinary teaching of Shri Mataji's that we have complete knowledge of everything within ourselves, that we are our own guru, our own master. We don't actually need someone to tell us anything. Most of us spend our time looking for someone to tell us what to do, to tell us how to do it. We think that law comes from outside, that morality comes from outside. But no, Shri Mataji says it is there within us. Everything is there that we can know within ourselves, and we become our own masters when this area of the Bhavasagara, of the void, is enlightened. Just above is the heart center, Anahata it's called in Sanskrit. And this flame here indicates that this is the center of our highest self. It is here that the spirit is located. And in the Indian mythology, in the Indian system, the spirit is shown as Sri Shiva. Shiva is the one, the divine being, who sits on the top of the mountains. He's also the dancer, of course. He's the one who produces life out of his dancing. But he's also the supreme ascetic. He sits on the mountaintop in meditation. And he's always smiling, has the most wonderful smile as he contemplates the whole of life, all the dramas of life, the ups and downs of life. He's smiling. He is the supreme yogi. And it's an image of what we are also. The yogis say a mantra to themselves, which is, I am consciousness, I am reality, I am being, I am bliss. I am the same as Shiva. I am that divine being. I am eternal. I am clear. I am detached. I am supreme. And that's a poetic way, maybe, of trying to understand what the experience of the yogi is when we feel that we are identical with that highest self, with that supreme being, who is Shiva, who is auspicious. The quality of the right heart is of strength, the masculine qualities, if you like, clarity, certainty. It is here that we feel there is a being within us who gives security, who knows what has to be done, who knows what is law, what is just, what is order, what is discipline, but who is immeasurably kind, gentle. And that is the quality of the right heart. And the quality of the center heart is a deep feeling of security. When this chakra clears, we feel that nothing really can harm us. We are here in our freedom and in our innocence, and we know with complete certainty that we cannot be harmed. And it's true. This is the center called the Vishuddhi, is the center of communication. It's where speech derives, and it's through this center that we link with other human beings. And the quality of this center as it clears is that we become one with ourselves. As Mr. Nobel has expressed it, we become peaceful with ourselves, one with ourselves, peaceful with each other, peaceful with the whole universe. This center is called Agya, is the center of command. This is where we do our thinking, is where we are conscious. And it is also the center through which these two areas, blue and yellow, manifest in Western psychological terms as the ego, which is this yellow, is the product of the right side of our action, of our consciousness, creates the ego. And the product of the left side is, from the past, is our conditioning, the weight of the past, which can have a beneficial effect. It gives us a tradition, a culture, in which we can manifest ourselves. And those manifest at this center. And the effect of the clearing of this center is that we become free, that we realize our complete and total freedom, our freedom to embrace what is good in our traditions, what is good in the past, and our freedom to reject any compulsions in the past to behave in a way which we would not want to behave. We escape in a way from the limitations of our nationality, of our class, of our family, and embrace what is good. It's through this center also that we actually learn to forgive. A lot of the suffering that we endure as human beings comes from desire on the one hand, which is unfulfilled, and on the other hand, from a refusal to forgive. And when this center clears, it's very easy to forgive, because we're in a higher place. So whatever has happened to us, we feel that we've been badly treated, it's very easy to say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, because we're in a higher place. And that higher place is shown here in the image as a lotus flowering. It's called the 1,000-petaled lotus, the Sahasrara chakra. It is the 1,000-petaled circle of light. And this is an image, a poetic image. But it is an image which we can translate through the gift of Shri Mataji into reality, that we can experience what it is to enter that fifth dimension, you can say, of the Sahasrara chakra. And it's a very pleasant feeling, a feeling of arriving, a feeling of clarity, of deep peace, of oneness with ourselves. The only other thing I need to say, because I have to explain why this hand is with a magnifying glass over it, is in order to show that when the awareness reaches this point, we begin to feel our own chakras on our fingers. We feel them in our body. We feel them as coolness when they are clear. Wonderful cool sensation in the subtle body, in the region of the heart, in the stomach, and so on, as they are clear. Now, if they are not clear, then we have here a wonderful means of diagnosis for ourselves, another sense which will serve us. And we may feel a pain, a tingling, a heaviness, a denseness in the body or in the fingers, because these fingers, as you can see from the color coding there, correspond to the centers. The thumb corresponds to this Svadhisthana chakra. The middle finger corresponds to the stomach. This is a wonderful discovery of Shri Mataji's, that by studying our fingers and our body, paying attention to what is happening in our subtle body, we can know if we're on the right track or the wrong track. This is incredibly wonderful and useful tool that she has given us. Not only that, when our awareness reaches this high point, we enter collective consciousness. This means that we can know on our fingers and in our body how it is with other people. So we can say of another, you have a problem here in the stomach, in the Nabhi chakra, I can help you. And part of Sahaja Yoga consists of our working together to locate where there are blockages. And we can give each other help by directing energy into those centers. This is a very, very brief survey of this subtle instrument, a very brief reference to the qualities of the centers and of the channels, the nadis, that we will slowly get to know when we practice Sahaja Yoga. Beyond that, this simple mechanism that is within us is the whole of the reality of Sahaja Yoga as it is lived by the people who practice it. And it is something which is infinitely huge in its potential. In the end, all human beings should know this reality and will know this reality. And at that point, we'll be able to say that all human beings in the future will actually be Sahaja Yogis, that they will know spontaneously what the highest reality is. They will know themselves as one with the Divine Being. So we do look forward to the time when everyone can say, we are Sahaja Yogis. Thank you.